I love how the year is 2023 and I still have to read articles like this to you here. Republican states are leading a drive to boot, to boot poor kids off of Medicaid. Millions of people, including children, have in recent months lost access to Medicaid, the federal program intended to provide health insurance coverage for low-income Americans. Axios reports that numbers released by the Biden White House show that a whopping 60% of people who have been booted off of Medicaid this year come from just 9 states, all of which are led by Republicans. The states in question are Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Montana, New Hampshire, Ohio, South Dakota, and Texas, all of which have Republican governors and state legislatures. Although New Hampshire's House of Representatives at the moment is almost evenly divided between Republicans and Democrats. Per Axios, Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra this week sent letters to all 9 states warning them to comply with federal Medicaid requirements or face unspecified repercussions. In interviews with Axios, officials in those states insisted that they were complying with regulations and that their purging of Medicaid rolls wasn't a deliberate attempt to deny low-income children access to health care. Quote, at least 2.2 million kids have been removed from Medicaid and its sister program, the Children's Health Insurance Program, during the so-called unwinding of pandemic-era coverage protections as of September, according to data from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Many have been disenrolled because of a procedural issue and not necessarily because they were no longer eligible. States have been restoring coverage for over 500,000 people, many of them children who were inappropriately booted from Medicaid because of an error in calculating income. So, look, there's a couple things to say here. This is an argument for more centralization and less delegating to the states, because when you leave it up to the states, the Republican states are going to be like, fuck you, we want to make life worse for everybody. That's one point. The other point is, this is an argument for streamlining services and making it less weird and red tapey, right? So it shouldn't be, hey, fill out this form and then you fill out that form and then you drop it off at this department and they send it to that department and then, hey, look at that. And you finally have healthcare after jumping through 37 hoops. No, it should be like, you're just in it. You know what I'm saying? This is also one of the reasons why all the UBI programs are phenomenal, because it's like, no strings attached. Here's a check, $500, go cash it. You do what you want. And it's like, oh, would you look at that? That has phenomenal outcomes for everybody. People can pay their bills. People report a massive reduction in stress. This stuff doesn't go towards alcohol and drugs and all sorts of vices like gambling. People spend it on things that make sense. So like a welfare state works. You need a basic bare minimum social safety net to help people get by. And what we're looking at now is millions of people losing Medicaid because Republican states are basically booting them and making it as difficult as humanly possible for them to continue to get the coverage. Now, the Democrats' hands aren't clean on this, because I think Biden's biggest mistake was listening to the deficit hawks and saying, yeah, when the pandemic era social safety net expansions go away, we're going to go ahead and let them go away. That's unacceptable. And I think if you had to point to one thing that hurt him the most in modern times, it would be that. I think also now you could say the support for Israel absolutely obliterating Gaza and killing massive numbers of civilians. That also is a huge strike against him, and he's massive dip in the polls during that as well. But his polls really started to fall off a cliff even before what's happening in Gaza. And it was directly because of the social safety net becoming more meager, the social safety net being reduced. If he had kept those pandemic era protections in place, the social safety net expansion, he would have a much better chance in the election. Remember, guys, his approval rating was the highest when he did direct $1,400 checks to everybody. His approval rating was up to 52 or 54%. He hasn't sniffed that in a super long time because, you know, it's what have you done for me lately? And guess what? The answer is not much, except give your money to a genocidal ethno-state. So, look, it's terrible, right? This is terrible. And, I don't want to make the argument that like Democrats and Republicans are equal on this, because they're not. The Republican states are leading the drive to boot the kids off of Medicaid. Remember, Minnesota is always the go-to example for this. Minnesota Democrats have a 1-seat majority, and they achieved universal free school meals, legal weed, carbon-free electricity by 2040, tax rebates for the working class, where they give them $1,300 if they make under $150,000 a year, 12 weeks paid family leave, 12 weeks paid sick leave. They banned conversion therapy. They did red flag laws for guns. They did universal background check for guns. They did automatic voter registration. They did free public college for everybody who makes under $80K. They banned forever chemicals. They did a $2.2 billion increase in K-12 school funding, and they did sectoral bargaining for nursing home workers, which is going to raise their pay massively. So with a one-seat Democratic majority, they did a bunch of really, really base good things. But the thing that drives me crazy is like the elected Republican officials, basically they run on, we are pure evil. Do you love evil? Vote for us. And then the Democrats come along, certainly at the national level, and they go, that's not good. We will be semi-evil. Please vote for us, the semi-evil ones. That's not, you could just be not evil. Have you considered that? You could just be not evil. So the way you defeat the evil is with good, not with, well, meet you halfway and be semi-evil. So, but you're seeing here the effects of the pure evil in action. Booting kids off of Medicaid. It doesn't get any worse than that. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.